It is 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum with 2 board members missing, Ms. Kaminsky and Ms. Bronsell, and they are in Galveston at TASB Winter Conference. I was supposed to tell you that they made Joe mad and they wouldn't show up anymore. So he's in timeout. Welcome to the meeting, and we will open the meeting with a moment of silence as we normally do. And tonight I'd like you to particularly remember Dr. Rand and his family. Thank you. Now, if you'd stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And we open the meeting with student reports, the Science Olympiad.
My name is Rylan Muth, and I'm from Carter Elementary.
My name is Callie Thomas, and I'm from Carter Elementary.
My name is Monica Guzman, and I'm from Smith Elementary.
My name is Nevaeh Kimball, and I'm from Smith Elementary.
We competed in Science Olympiad on February 2nd.
Science Olympiad has been going on for 12 years.
There are 20 science and engineering events.
3rd, 4th, and 5th graders have participated in this event.
Our event is aerodynamics.
In aerodynamics, we had to do different designs on paper airplanes to see which air design would fly the longest distance.
One thing I learned is you're not going to get it the first time. You have to make sure your plane has no air in it and the point is completely straight so your plane will go further. In 4th grade, I got 4th place. In 5th grade, I got 1st place.
If you want to watch videos from this event, the link is on the bottom of the flyer. Now I'm going to teach you how to make a paper airplane.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have to try to make them fly too. Thank you.
No? Stay safe and secure. Thank you.
You can do it.
You have 1 minute, starting now.
First, you're going to fold your paper airplane in half.
Okay.
Like this.
Okay. And then?
Then you're going to do the opposite and fold it the other way. Then you're going to get the corners of your paper and fold it into the middle of the line. Now you're going to fold it this way, the opposite way. Next, you're going to get this corner right here and fold it to the inside like this. You're going to do the same thing on the other side.
I cheated.
Now you're going to repeat the same step.
Now that looks cool.
Then you're going to get your piece of tape and tape it on the...
Did you have tape?
Get the tape.
We women didn't follow the rules.
You
Look
got
at the
tape?
men, they're having way too much fun.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Your time is up.
I think that happened a long time ago.
You're playing...
no, yours is like mine. Yeah.
Your plane should look like this.
Or something similar.
It's close.
See, you did a fighter.
Now
We
we're
didn't
going
follow directions at all. At least we tried.
We get to draw it?
We going for distance?
Yes.
All right. You might want to open the door over there.
You can tell who are the engineers on the.
Uh-huh. I know teachers.
Yeah, and the teachers.
Mine's a trick plane, it doesn't go just.
Go ahead.
See, it did a trick.
It looked good.
This is Miss Roberts, I'm her pilot here, her proxy.
Oh, terrible.
Made it
You want to try
8
yours?
Here, try mine. Mine doesn't look any better. Try mine. I don't think mine's going to go any further than yours.
But it did go further than Joe.
It did.
Oh.
It did.
James, you're
Yeah.
the engineer.
You're the engineer. We're the retired teachers.
The marks.
Now Mr. James is the winner.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And how did y'all do? It was fun.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Great.
Sorry, we do better.
Yeah, I apologize.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
I heard the other day that grandpas are good for teaching kids mischief they wouldn't otherwise get into. So,
God, that was embarrassing.
all right, thank you so much, and thank you, parents. Parents, for these children, stand up so you can be recognized as well. Thanks for coming tonight. I don't believe we have any recognitions or awards. No introductions. This time we'll do the audience to patrons.
We are now at the portion of the meeting when the board allots time to hear persons who desire to make comments to the board. Persons who wish to speak to the board must sign up to do so as they arrive, and they must indicate the topic about which they wish to speak. No presentation shall exceed 5 minutes. Delegations of more than 5 persons shall appoint one person to present their views. The board will hear the concerns, but the board cannot deliberate, discuss, or make a decision on any subject that is not posted on the agenda. Persons who speak to the board cannot complain about a district officer or employee in open session. Such concerns are heard in closed session after proper posting of the agenda item has occurred. As you come forward, please state your name and your address. And our first speaker is, I have to apologize because I may not be able to pronounce the name, Adato? I apologize. You didn't hand me the card, so.
I just go?
You just go. You've got
All
5
right.
minutes.
Okay, well, my name is Adetayo Mabadije. I'm one of the parents. I'm a parent of a student and an incoming student to elementary school. I wanted to talk about the proposed change to the instructional calendar. it turns out that I guess the votes are in and a large percentage of parents voted to go with the change. But I just wanted to express my concerns, and I'm just going to list them down. Number one, I'm very concerned about the reason for the change. I was told, because I had called to send emails, and I called, and I was told that there were complaints about getting out after, breaking for the summer after the other districts. I remember that last year, it was like we got out like a week after Fort Bend ISD, but we did go back in a week after Fort Bend ISD, so it worked out fine. Yes, the kids complained, but it's like, you know what? This is what happens, and some schools get out early. In the East Coast, they get out later, and that's just the way it is. And my question, one of my questions I have is, are we going to go back earlier now with Fort Bend ISD, or will we still be going back the end of August? Number two is, I'm really concerned about if it's going to benefit the students, and I'm wondering if there's any data to support whether or not it's going to benefit the students, or is it just convenience for some of the parents that wanted the change? And I'm just wondering, like one of the other points that was raised by some parents is that, you know, after the testing in May, the kids don't really do anything, they just go to school and play. And I don't see any problem with that, because it's like, you know, the kids, they go there in a safe environment, they play with people that they don't really see during the school year, and they're probably not going to see during the summer. It's a safe environment, I don't see the problem with that. And then the other question I have is, even if we're going to extend the summer, I'm wondering why we want to go on summer break in May. It's still spring. The weather is like it's going to be today, or maybe a little bit warmer, but it's still like wet. If we want to extend the summer, why not extend it after, you know, August and go in after Labor Day in September, like they do on the East Coast? That's still summer. Summer starts in June. My big concern is about exhaustion. I know that there's some mention about 15 minutes doesn't really make much of a difference, but it does. We did the 15 minutes or 20, I think it was 15 minutes on the upside like 2-3 years ago, and it was a bit of a change, at least for my children. There's a big difference when my kids go to bed 15 minutes later, and I think that 15 minutes or 20 minutes at the end of the school day is going to be exhausting. You know, for 5-6-year-olds, it's like, I'm not really sure why we want 5-6-year-olds to have the day of an adult work day. They're going to have plenty of that when they're older. My other concern is I don't necessarily think that a longer day will translate to more learning or better learning. They're going to burn out. You know, there's a law of diminishing returns. You know, after a while, you shut down. I think they're going to be exhausted by the end of the school week. Then I'm also concerned about how to just, the day is going to go by. They have homework, they'll have studying for tests, they might have appointments after school, dinner, extracurricular activities, and then it's like with all of that, when do they chill, when do they relax, when do they play, when do they sleep? The other concern I have is bus riders. My kids, or my daughter now, my son hasn't started school, it's supposed to start next year, will probably be a bus rider. Bus riders get home, some of them 30 minutes after the bell gets out. So if they're getting out at 2:30, if it goes to 2:45, they don't get home for 30 minutes. The last stop is about 45 minutes after the school day ends. So right now, I know the middle school bus passes my house about 4:15. So next year it'll be like 4:30 with traffic on the downside. The traffic will probably pile up. They'll probably be getting home from school minutes to 5, and I just think that's such a long day. And again, the big question I have is it really going to benefit the students? I wish if somebody would let me know about convince me that it will. Well, I mean, I don't have to be convinced, but I'd like to know if it's really going to benefit the students, and again, if there's any data to support that this proposed change would benefit the students. So those are my big concerns. I mean, it is what it is. I just wanted to voice my concerns and hopefully get some answers. I don't know if I will get some answers. I think somebody said that it might not be addressed, but at least I wanted to voice my concerns. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For coming.
Our next speaker is Catherine Fuller.
Hello. My name's Catherine Fuller. I live at 1306 Cross Valley Drive in Greatwood. Thank you for letting me have a moment of your time to speak with you. I'd also like to thank you for the work you've done towards making Lamar Consolidated ISD an exemplary school system. I'm speaking with you tonight because of my concern regarding the outcome of the survey for next year's school calendar. I believe the extra time each day required by option B adds exactly what the children do not need after an already long school day. Our children's brains are like sponges, but even sponges have their limits to how much water they can hold. I'm sorry, I'm shaking because I don't normally speak in front of crowds, but my children, I need to come and just voice my concerns.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine.
In addition, I worry about the accuracy of the survey results. I read Mr. Rockwood's response regarding people's concerns, but it didn't seem to factor the legitimate duplicates, such as corporate IP addresses. There is essentially no way to purify the data. I have also heard many complaints about the slant which the survey options were written. It was apparent which choice the survey's author preferred. I realize my window in the community is fairly small sample, but both the teachers and parents I've spoken with overwhelmingly support option A. Our children are already at school for over 7 hours. Please don't make their school day any longer. They will learn more in the additional days than they will in the extra minutes. I hope that we can all agree that we are here tonight and we do our jobs that we do for the children, so please reconsider option A. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments very much.
Our next speaker is Sophia Sheik.
I feel the same way. My name is Sophia Sheik, and I'm also here to talk about the instructional calendar, which you guys have put out. I emailed Mr. Rockwood, and he came back, and I also have concerns about the survey that I don't think it was done accurately. I don't think there was a lot of duplications which were not taken into account, and I also think as students should have a say in this too. And there is a big difference. There's a big age difference between like 5-year-old and 6-year-olds versus secondary kids. Secondary kids can take 20 minutes extra, but young kids, it's harder for them to concentrate and they lose focus. And we can see that kids are already in school for a long time. When 2 years ago, when they moved the elementary start time from 7:45 to 7:30, I don't think a survey went out, or maybe I might be wrong, but parents did not complain because that was something for the benefit of the buses and everything. But my daughter, who's in elementary, she already has to adjust her timing. And then a lot of things have already been told by other parents, but I will just say that the extra 20 minutes will add to a lot of, so my daughter does piano at 3. So that means I'll have to push her piano time to a bit later time. Where does it leave her any time for homework or any time of family dinner or anything like that? So before you guys adopt that, I feel there should be another survey sent out. If it's, I feel like it says 71% people preferred option B, and when I'm addressing and I'm talking to parents, I feel like they don't support this survey at all, and I feel like we need to do a better job and listen to the parents better. I'm trying to see if I have anything else. That's about it. I just hope that you guys, the board, will consider the parents, please, but there's been a lot of upset parents been talking about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for comments.
Thank you.
That's all, Mr. President.
Thank you. At this point, I need a motion to approve the minutes from the January 15th, 2019 special meeting workshop.
I'll make a motion to approve the special meeting workshop.
Do I have a second to that?
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? There are none. Thank you. Need a motion to approve the January 15th, 2019 special meeting minutes. Ms. Roberts made the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? There are none. Thank you. Need a motion to approve the January 17th, 2019 regular board meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion we approve the January regular board meeting minutes.
Do I have a second to that?
I'll second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none. Thank you. Board member reports. How about you, Joe? You got one or two?
So the Financial Committee did meet, and notes are in the agenda tonight, and the Technology Committee also met with a few updates. Disaster recovery and business continuity. Project is making progress. On-site meetings with the recovery teams were scheduled and were done on a, well, I guess, what is the date? Yesterday ended today, and there's one tomorrow. Information Services Committee has been formed and to gather input on changes. The core switch upgrades is an item for purchase on the board agenda for tonight. Security cameras is an agenda item also for purchasing cameras and related hardware and installation as needed from the 2011 and 2014 bonds. ClassLink, February 6th set a new daily record for student logins for this school year with 16,783 visits by students accessing the online resources. And the Raptor security software upgrade is complete. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
On Tuesday, we had our board facilities committee meeting, and I'll start with what we talked about for the 2014 bond first. Thomas Culver Elementary School is at this point 70% complete. The electrical and gas utilities are in progress, and they are close to permanent power there, and the project is on schedule. Roberts Middle School is also 70% complete. They do have permanent powers as of February 15th, and it is on schedule to be completed. New maintenance and operations facility warranty corrections are being addressed. Support services facility, the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing rough-in progress is in area A. Exterior sheathing installation is underway. Cooler freezer completion work in progress, and the health inspector approved that as of Tuesday. Temporary certificate of occupancy received on areas B and C on January 14th, and hope to have everything complete by mid-May. Natatoriums of George Ranch, Fulshear, and Foster High Schools, the punch list was 100% complete, and the project closed out and is on the board agenda tonight. HVAC web based controls, all graphics are updated, closeout documents are underway, testing and balancing is underway, and the final acceptance will be at our March board meeting. District-wide access controls, support services hardware is pending installation. 5 new locations were added to the scope of work that should be completed in February, and I hope it's getting close to that, and closeout documents are underway. District-wide site lighting warranty items are in progress to be completed by the end of March. Closeout documents are underway. And our newest elementary school, Tamarin Elementary, 95% construction document review completed on January 25th. Traffic study complete, and project is available to contractors on February 7th, and bid submissions are due February 28th. And then we go on to the 2017 bond. We're just busy. And the good news, the contract has been executed with Rice & Garner Consultants for our construction manager. Facilities assessment and long-range plan. The facilities planning meeting weekly with PBK architects. Schedules are under development, and district-wide initiative kicks off March 29th, and this is where they're going to go through every building or in the whole district and assess them. Austin and Elementary and Seguin, early childhood roofing. Austin's project is complete. Seguin roof is 100% complete. Project's supposed to be closed out in March. Classroom intruder equipment installed. The new electrified hardware is installed. Classroom locks are complete except for Travis and Austin Elementary. Terry High School and George Ranch High School new serving lines. Terry High School new cafeteria serving line is in operation. The first one, additional line, will be upgraded during the summer. George Ranch, first serving line is, George Junior High, first serving line is operation. Additional serving lines upgrades this summer. High School number 6 and Junior High number 6, we had the presentation on that on Tuesday. Recommendation for design development is on this board's agenda. We'll be voting on that tonight. The geotechnical report is complete and the topographic survey is complete. The traffic study is in progress. Synthetic turf and track projects for Foster, Fulshire, George Ranch, and Terry High School for their installation, track replacement at Foster High, and Taylor Stadium advertisement for CSPs published February 3rd and 10th. Bid opening scheduled for March 7th and construction to begin in April. And finally, and we did have a presentation on this on Tuesday, the William Elementary renovations. Recommendation for design development is on this board's agenda, and the front office entrance will be renovated. Additional new carpet and fire sprinkler system will be installed. So that's everything going on. And then myself, we had kind of a busy last few weeks. Right after the last board meeting, I attended the musicals at the high schools of Fulshire, Foster, and Terry. Again, it just the talent in this district, from the people on the stage to the set design, and thank you to the students, the teachers, and the parents to make all those productions a joy to attend. And I really appreciated all their hard work. And what else has been going on? James and I went to the Gulf, and Ms. Kaminsky went to the Gulf Coast Area Association of School Boards update on what's happening in the Texas 86th legislation as far as some of the bills that are being filed for education and finance. And we had some eye-openers that night, to say the least. But we as a board try to stay on top of what's going on in Austin, and I'll be going on Monday to Austin for Legislative Day, and that's when people from the Education Board come down and actually do talk to us and give us some insight of where they're headed and what they can do to help all of us educate out in public school our students of Texas. And last of all, thank you to Janice Knight for a very successful menu cook Saturday night. I don't know what the final total is, but it was one of the largest crowds I've ever seen. And I'm sure she'll get that information to us soon. But thank you again to all of the LEAF Board, what they do for our teachers and students at LCISD. And that's it.
Anyone else?
The Attendance Boundary Committee met on Tuesday as well. We did have a presentation on Tuesday. I don't know if anybody has any questions. I believe that there were 3 speakers at the public meeting on January 29th, and the representative for the Attendance Boundary Committee felt like they addressed all of the concerns for those 3 speakers, and we have a recommendation tonight in our agenda of what the attendance boundary lines will be.
All right, great. Dr. Earl, anything?
I attended the Reading Junior High Career Day this past month, and I'm going to compliment them. I've been to career days from high school down to elementary. In our district, other districts, they had over 90 presenters. It's put on by the PTO at Reading, so just compliment to them. It is a college level career day. It's absolutely amazing. So anyways, kudos to Reading Junior High for their career day. It's amazing.
All right. Thank you, board members, for your reports. Obviously, we will not have any superintendent reports tonight. This time we will have the public hearing on the LCISD Accountability Performance Report for 2017-2018, and it's 7:28.
Good evening, our honored members of the board, members of the public present. We are here this evening to present our academic performance report for this past year. Just as a, hold on, there we go. Just as a reminder, this used to be called the AEIS report, but that was changed in 2012 to the Texas Academic Performance Report. It gives information on every district and every campus in the state of Texas as far as not only performance, but also demographic information, district staff, and programs. Just to give some points of data that are contained within this report. On the information side, it has student information including demographic, profile, attendance, graduation dropout rates, retention rates, class size. It has staff information as far as demographics, experience, average salaries, and turnover. It has a link to budget data. On the performance side, it has star performance disaggregated by grade, subject, and student group, and also by approaches, meets, and master's grade level, as well as star participation, college readiness, and program performance and participation. There are 4 ways to access this report, either from TEA's website directly, which gives access to all schools in the state of Texas and all districts. Our webpage at Research and Accountability has the information for our district and our campuses. Campus offices have access to this, as well as our office here at Brazos Crossing. To give an overview of performance for 2018, our 2018 accountability label was not rated due to the Harvey provision. We would have otherwise received a grade of B. In the new system with the 3 domains with 2 subdomains in domain 2, we would have received a B for domain 1, which is student achievement, a B for academic progress, which includes growth and relative performance, and we would have received an A for closing the gaps. So when you put all that together, had we not received a label due to Harvey, we would have received a grade of B. All of our campuses received the MET standard rating, which after this year will be going away in favor of those letter grades that I mentioned for the district. Together, all of our campuses combined received 78 distinction designations, with Austin, Campbell, and Frost receiving all eligible distinctions, Hubenack and Long receiving all but 1, and Dickinson, Jackson, Lamar Junior High, and Foster receiving 4 distinctions each. Some key indicators of performance. We start out with the star performance level. There's 4 levels, 3 of which are reported by TEA, and that is master's grade level. A student that is scoring at master's grade level, it's the highest level that's in the system. That student has a 75% chance of being successful in college without remediation their first year. A student that's at meets grade level has a 60% chance of being successful in college their first year. And then a student who is approaches will need not only some more intervention to be successful in future years, but there's not really any data to tie that they would be successful in college if they consistently scored at that level. It is considered passing, and it's considered the base level to where we start from, but we want to try to get our students to score at the meets and master's level. And we'll see why towards the end of the presentation. Did not meet grade level are the students that failed, and that's really calculated as the inverse of approaches. So if we had 80% of students scoring approaches, 20% would be do not meet grade level. As you can see on the chart, the gray is the state, the maroon is the region, and the blue is our district. Consistently at approaches grade level, we outscored the state and the region between 3 and 5 percentage points on every subject area. The same can be said for the meets grade level, as well as the master's grade level. So while those percentages get smaller as you go on, we as a district are outperforming our neighbors and other districts in the state of Texas. When we look at graduation rates, and we look at both the 5-year and the 4-year and the 5-year graduation rate, we are above 5 points above the region and the state in both of those areas. So we do significantly better with our students graduating not only on time, but also making sure that they get to graduation. Our dropout rate is half that of the region and half that of the state. We have an effective dropout rate of about 0.5%. A new set of indicators that has come into the report this year, and we've discussed this with you all before. It's called College, Career, and Military Readiness. And this is a set of indicators that looks and sees how well our students are prepared for going beyond our doors and going on to college or career pursuits. It's composed of AP, SAT, and ACT, as well as TSIA scores, which are all college entry tests. Dual credit completion, industry certifications from career and technical education, and the intent to enlist in the military. All of these indicators were created in the 85th legislature in 2017. So this is a unique indicator because this year's data was evaluating students that actually graduated before this was signed into legislation. In fact, it was these students had graduated about 3 days before this even passed the Texas legislature. So this is a retroactive look at the class of 17 and what they had done in their 4 years in high school. So when we look at where we are compared to the state and the region, we are very comparable to the region. In fact, we're only 0.2 of a point off of what the regional average was, and we're well ahead by about a point, actually 2 points, of the state average. So we're doing very well for not having known what these factors were until after the students graduated. When we disaggregate the different pieces of this, where we do very well is we do very well with the college entrance tests, the SAT, ACT, and TSIA. We do very well with the advanced placement tests. Areas where we're looking to grow are with dual credit and the career and technical education industry certifications. And those are both targets in the district improvement plan. So you'll be hearing more about where we are with that progress tonight. When we look at demographics, as PASA showed us on Tuesday night, we have grown significantly in the past 5 years. We've added about 15.7% more enrollment than we had in 13-14. We remain a very diverse district, and we also have comparatively added 23.3% more graduates, which is a good sign that we're adding more graduates percentage-wise than we're adding enrollment. So our graduation rate is very, very outstanding for our district. As also mentioned by the demographers on Tuesday night, we are becoming a more affluent district. Our percentage of economically disadvantaged students has declined in the past 5 years. In fact, if you look at the actual numbers, we have added only 370 economically disadvantaged students compared to 4,600 non-economically disadvantaged students. Also, when we break down our programs, our ESL program, our bilingual ESL, and our gifted and talented program have remained relatively stable. Our CTE program has grown significantly, though. We have had a 5.6 point growth in the amount of students enrolling in career and technical ed. And we're starting to see a growth in special education, which will be talked about later on tonight with the special education update. When we look at serious disciplinary incidents, which Lieutenant Segura touched on Tuesday, we have done very well. There's a disaggregation of that per campus that was impacted on our website. But we do a statistic similar to what the FBI does. We look at number of incidents per 1,000 students, and we have actually declined in the number of serious incidents down to 4.6 per 1,000 students. And this is very impressive because remember, we've added 5,000 students in the same time period, and not only has our ratio declined, but our number has also declined. So we've done very well at some of our restorative discipline practices and other things that keep kids out of trouble. The last part of our report is our post-secondary performance data. And I have to caution this set of data because it comes from the Texas Higher Ed Coordinating Board. And so we're looking at colleges and universities in the state of Texas. And we're not looking at if students go on to, let's say, LSU or Oklahoma or Arkansas or Grambling State or somewhere that's outside of our borders. When our students leave our doors, around 62% enroll in a Texas Institute of Higher Ed. And of that group of students that enroll, the vast majority, 61%, are able to complete their first year in college without any further remediation, which goes back to where we started with the discussion of approaches, meets, and masters. These are students that in the alignment of the STAR are increasingly scoring at meets and masters. And so they're very well prepared to go to college and be successful. And as you can see, we outpace both the state and the region significantly on both of these indicators. When we looked at where our students went from the class of 17, their top choice was, of course, Wharton County Junior College, being nearby, followed by the University of Houston, UT San Antonio, Blinn, Texas A&M, Sam Houston State, UT Austin, Houston Community College, Texas State, and Texas Tech. That concludes our report. Do we have any questions or comments?
Questions or comments from the board?
The last slide that you just showed us, that's class of 2017 for all of the campuses?
Yes. Yeah, that was the top 10 picks as published by the Higher Ed Coordinating Board.
Since this is a public hearing, do we have any questions or comments from the public? I'll just comment, well done. Very impressive statistics.
Thank you, sir.
Not too bad for a little Podunk School District across the river here, is it?
Just off the Brazos.
Just across the Brazos.
Any questions can be directed to our office. You can email us at research@lcisd.org.
All right, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
We'll close the public hearing at 7:43. At this point, we will establish the consent agenda for the evening. You follow along with me. A1, B1, B2, B3, B4, B5. We will pull B6, B7, B8, B9, B10, B11, B12, B13, B14, B15, B16, B17, B18, B19, B20, B21, B22, B23, B24, B25, B26, B27, B28, B29, B30, B31, C1, C2, C3. The consent agenda contains every item except B6. Entertain a motion at this time to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Have a second to that?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, there are none. Thank you. Before we get to the one action item, I would like to read the donations to the district. Arredondo PTO donated $5,571.84 to purchase a TV for the cafeteria at Arredondo Elementary School. 4KT Energy LLC donated $15,000 to purchase a charger bus for the main entrance foyer at Fulshire High School. Hubenack PTA donated $15,031 to purchase playground equipment, shades, and a poster maker at Hubenack Elementary School. Friends of Huggins donated $5,218.27 to purchase 2 benches and a new slide at Huggins Elementary School. McNeil PTO donated $8,789.70 to purchase a die-cut machine and design center for McNeil Elementary School. Again, thank you so much for these donations. We have a very generous community around us. Would you read the resolutions, please?
We have 2 for this next month. Whereas Diagnosticians Week has historically been proclaimed by the Governor of Texas to be recognized throughout Texas during the first full week of March. And whereas diagnosticians in Texas play an important role in the educational, social, and emotional development of our children. And whereas diagnosticians use specialized training to identify learning disabilities and recommend appropriate special education intervention for students. And whereas diagnosticians are in a unique position to consult with professionals in other fields when speech, physical, medical, and emotional problems are indicated. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Lamar Consolidated Independent School District declares March 4th through the 8th, 2019 as Texas Educational Diagnosticians Week in the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District, and asked our community to recognize the invaluable contributions made by educational diagnosticians adopted this 21st day of February 2019. And our next one, whereas the students of our Texas public schools hold the promise of our future in their capable hands, and whereas the Lamar Consolidated Independent Schools District provides the tools, framework, and solid foundation vital for the future of our children, and whereas the dedicated efforts of parents, educators, community leaders provide the necessary support and strength to our schools, thus providing our children a quality education, and whereas students attain a higher level of achievement because of the commitment to excellence and focus on continued improvement in our schools, and whereas for more than 60 years, the observance of Texas Public Schools Week has demonstrated the significant impact of education on our future and our communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Lamar Consolidated Independent School District encourages all citizens to reaffirm their commitment to public schools during Texas Public Schools Week, March 4th through the 8th, 2019, and urges all citizens to recognize the impact public education has in raising past, present, and future generations of Texans, adopted this 21st day of February 2019.
And I hope they heard that resolution on Austin.
From us to them.
From us to them. All right. At this point, we'll consider item B6.
I make a motion that we consider adoption of the 2019-2020 student staff instructional calendar as presented.
I'll second that.
All right. Discussion?
Can I go first? So, as a parent of a kindergartner in the district, just personal opinion, you know, my option A, obviously from a personal level, was what was most attractive to me, but obviously our job is to put aside, you know, our personal opinions, and typically when there's a survey, you know, I mean, it typically benefits just to kind of go with the majority, but something just didn't feel right this time, and so just there was a lot of questions being asked, a lot of, you know, feedback. So I started reading as much as I could on social media about, feedback, is, the emails we were getting, and luckily for me, I have a constant flow of students, parents, teachers, and other district employees in my office on a daily basis, and yes, there's a lot of tell-all going on in the dental chair. So, so I made a point to start asking as many people as I could their opinion of these two calendars, and it seemed to me, in general, from at least people in my area, that at first, especially at the secondary level, the few extra days of summer does sound nice. That sounds pretty good. But in my opinion, the cost of that for elementary school students is greater than the benefit of having a few extra days of summer for all parties, but especially seemed like secondary seemed to be the one that was most most attractive to. And so I just a smaller benefit for a greater cost, in my opinion, for the little guys having to sit in school that much longer. And then one other aspect that I haven't heard anybody discuss yet is bus drivers. So this is going to cost bus drivers about $500 a year. That's a decent chunk for our bus drivers. When I first got on the board, our transportation department was not that great, and Mr. Jones has built up an amazing, transportation department and force of drivers right now. And the last thing I want to do is do something that might make our transportation department not as attractive as it has become, because we all know that was very difficult times at that time. So, my 2 cents.
Okay. Okay. I've been doing a little research, and I kind of getting up to speed. This all kind of started coming down a couple years ago when Austin passed, I forget which House bill it was, that we had to go to minutes.
2610.
Pardon me?
2610.
2610, 2 years ago. And at that point, we realized our elementary wasn't in compliance, and that's why the 15 minutes was added, and the secondary had too much, is what. And I was trying to think, I think that we have to have at least 75,000 minutes or more a year. Is that
75,600, correct,
yeah.
Mr. Moore?
75,600. Yeah. That's what I found. So, my question is, what is the difference between what our minutes were this year and what it will be next year with the new calendar? When and if we adopt B? What are the difference of the two calendars?
So the current 2018-2019 LCISD calendar for elementary students is 430 minutes, and it's 435 minutes at the secondary level.
Okay. That's right now?
Correct.
Okay. Now for next year?
If the board were to approve the recommendation of calendar option B, then both elementary and secondary students would go for 450 minutes annually.
So everyone would be going the same amount of minutes?
Correct.
And that hadn't been done yet? Is that?
Not before in our district.
Okay. So this minute thing has really been kind of the bugaboo, trying to make sure that things are equal. All right, the only thing that I kind of started doing a survey about is I started looking at Needville, Fort Bend, and Katy calendars. And all of them, Needville already has their elementary going from 8 a.m. to 3:35. So what is that? That's already 7 hours and 35 minutes.
That would be 5 minutes more than the proposal for calendar
Right.
option B.
And their secondary is from 7:55, I think, to 3:49, which is very strange. Right now, they do the 2 weeks of in-service like we're proposing, that B proposes. They start the same time, but they end now a week before we do. So this calendar B looks kind of like their calendar, in my opinion.
Correct.
Fort Bend, Fort Bend and Katy are a little different because they got where they could start school on the 15th, but they're out like the 22nd of May. But their school hours, from what I can tell, their elementary, actually Katy's kind of strange because they have 2 elementary bells. They go from 8 to 3:20 or 8:20 to 3:40. which is about 10 minutes less than what we're proposing on that B calendar. And Fort Bend, 8:10 to 3:25 is their elementary. And they also have a middle school. The main thing I see difference of everybody else is all the elementary seems to start later and go later than we do. We seem to start earlier. And I know I was in the district a few years ago, twice I think we tried to flip it, and the secondary teachers threw a huge fit. They didn't want to go to work earlier. So that was that problem. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, even though this calendar that's being proposed is going to put extra minutes, I've heard so much last year of, why are we still in school in June? I heard that more and more and more. And I had a principal tell me today, he said, you know, going into June, there's very little instruction the last 2 or 3 weeks. And what they're looking forward to, and I don't know if it's just principals, but I think I've heard from some teachers, more instruction leading up to the state test, maybe they could hopefully have even better results. The two areas of major concern, I think, with the teachers, especially elementary level, is they get out at 3 and their 3:15 is when they're supposedly clock hours, and they might still have duty. So those schools are going to have to do something to make sure that it's, because, you know, that's when, if they need to leave, they need to be able to leave. And I think one of the other concerns was the so much in service at the beginning of the school year. But I took a poll of us retired teachers, and we would have loved that, because having it during the school year, like I know they just had one on President's Day, and I don't want to out anybody, but if you go look, a lot of people called in sick that day because they, you know, you're wanting to get to implement some of the things you've learned. So, but I think that is another concern of how, you know, we're having so many more days at the beginning. And I just want to say right out, you know, whatever we decide tonight, especially to everyone out, this is only for 1 year. Next year could be a whole nother situation if something comes crazy with Austin. You never know what they're going to do. But I would like more input from each campus. I know we did the survey, and I know, because I heard, yes, the principals came and talked to us, yes, we had meetings. And another question I was going to ask, when was the first time it was rolled out that parents could, and teachers and administrators, was that right after we came back from the Christmas holidays? Was it January?
The survey?
Yes.
It was from January 22nd to February 4th.
Okay. And I know I saw it out there everywhere, but in the past we have gotten, each campus has kind of gotten together and made their recommendations. And I don't know, I think we asked the other night if that had happened. And you said?
No, previously we have a district-wide student improvement council, and they work with us on our district improvement plan. In the past, we've used them as a committee to look at the calendar, and historically they would go back to their campuses and get feedback, and then come back with, and they would vote in January of what their preference is, and then that recommendation would come to the school board.
Okay. I still think some of that should still be done. And another recommendation, I went to all these calendars on for this year and next year in all these other school districts, and they list the minutes on there. They tell the parents right up front how many minutes their students are going to school for the year. And I think that that might be helpful. It's just another, you know, giving them more information. I think more transparency we have about everything we do and why we do it. And some things we have no control over. When it comes from Austin, we have to comply. And I do want to give one more little tidbit. I think last year we had enough minutes in our calendar that when we had a day that we had to miss, we didn't have to make it up because we had enough minutes. Is that?
That's correct. And so just to clarify, with calendar option B, there are 2 bad weather makeup days in there, which was explained in the survey process, and calendar option A had 1 bad weather makeup day. Now, oftentimes, the agency will grant an exemption, and so those wouldn't apply. But in the rare cases where a small area is impacted, not even all of Region 4, we do have one in calendar option A, and we have 2 built-in days in calendar option B, so that we would not have to make that up.
Comments? Joe?
Well, I think I asked my questions on Tuesday night, but my suggestion is we stick with what we had last year and start the waiver process for next year, since it is a lengthy process as it was explained to me on Tuesday night.
By that, you mean the innovation, the District of Innovation process? Is that what you're talking about? Okay, so there's a couple of things, and I don't disagree that obviously there are some teachers. I didn't hear anything from parents disagreeing with option E. I did talk to some teachers that disagreed with option B, mostly at the elementary school level. And I've had kids younger, obviously, they're now 5th grade to high school now, but I do remember that. But one thing that I also remember is that if ever any of my kids were struggling with any of their courses, like especially reading and math, I had to drive them at 7 o'clock in the morning, and that happened pretty regularly after some of their assessments, leading up to the STAR test. And I don't ever remember those days being that much different for my kids when they got home than the days that they arrived at 7:45 or 7:30. The other thing is that concerns me terribly is that, and this probably more so than anything, we have a superintendent that all of us voted unanimously to extend his contract, and he then gives directives to the rest of the staff, our cabinet, Mr. Rockwood, Ms. Vogt, everybody else. And one of the things that was done here was that Mr. Rockwood went out and found an independent third-party entity, for lack of better words, I guess, to provide this survey. The survey told us that only 29% of the staff voted. 29%. So if I talked to 10 teachers who were unhappy with option B, I can assume that only 2.9% of those people went to vote. It also told us that only, 66% of the parent population voted. So I don't disagree that perhaps there's a lot more people out there that perhaps liked option A, but it's like everything else. If you don't vote, we are not going to get accurate results. And to assume that this survey is slanted in any way is assuming that we can't trust our superintendent because he can't trust Mr. Rockwood or anybody else who put this survey out there. And I think that I'm certainly concerned for the bus drivers. I totally get that. That's a whole week. That's a whole week's pay. That's a whole different situation and a different issue as far as paying them overtime, letting them work 40 hours. That's a whole different set. But what I heard from a lot of people was they don't believe the survey. They don't believe the survey results. They don't believe what the outcome is. Well, in my opinion, that basically says that they don't trust us, they don't trust Dr. Randall, and they don't trust the entities that we're going out for the third party to bring us back accurate results. And for that reason, I don't have a choice but to vote for option B. Because it's not about what my opinion is, it's the people who voted overwhelmingly by 66% that they wanted option B.
I've had a real problem with this week. We've, as board members, have probably gotten more input on this. I know I got more input on this than I did on a $445 million bond. They were more interested in this. And my first impression was we got 71. Oh, let's clear up the point about the multiple votes. And we had one of our speakers still address that issue of multiple votes. Well, Mr. Rockwood, they purged all that data, and when it came out, they took out the multiple votes. It actually came out more in favor of option B than it did before. The percentage actually went up. So I had my emails lit up more this week than they ever have. So I started, my gut told me I don't like option B just for the kids. We've already added 15 minutes to their schedule 2 years ago. Now we're going to add another 20 minutes. And knowing the attention span of these kids, I said, all right, these young children are going to be in school that much longer, and that's not keen to me. Then one of our speakers mentioned, do we have any data to support this extra 15 or 20 minutes will actually do a good thing for them? Well, when we had our 15-minute drop at the high schools and our 15-minute increase at the elementary schools, I don't remember anybody saying, hey, look what our scores did. The high school fell off and our elementary schools picked up in our math and our science classes because we did that. So that to me was sort of, I didn't have data to support that. I do have data to support the fact that if these young kids are in school longer, it becomes problematic for them. So like I say, I went back and forth on this, and do you go against the majority? Everybody that wrote to me had, this is why it shouldn't be B. This is detailed. This is good information to me. So they totally swung me away from it. So unless anybody else had any comments, we're going to call for the vote. And we'll do it by a show of hands. All those in favor of option B, please raise your hand. Those opposed? The motion fails. I guess at this point we need to approve option A. Do I have a motion to approve the instructional calendar option A?
Make a move that we approve option A.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Any further discussion on this? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. All right, we have a couple presentations to do this evening. For information items, the first one is the District Improvement Plan Quarterly Update.
Mr. President and members of the board, this is our quarterly update for the District Improvement Plan. Hope you'll forgive me, I'm a little hoarse this evening. Our District Improvement Plan, as you all know, was distilled this year to 3 major goals. The first is instructional leadership and programming. Goal number 2 is system and program review. That will be taking place. And goal number 3 is safe and responsible school environment. Goal number 1, instructional leadership and programming, is captured in this first slide that indicates what will we be working on and our expectations to quantify success of this particular goal. Performance objective 1.1 is for the academics for department, and in this particular goal, or objective, principals receive a variety of best practice training on leadership competencies that are related to our newly adopted leadership definition through the Holsworth Center. This will include training in professional learning communities, successful mentoring and coaching, situational leadership improvement, and all of that into order to achieve our goal and targets. Excuse me. The number 2 influences are the mentoring and coaching piece in order to help teachers grow at an individual level, and involving teachers in PLCs so that teachers can learn and grow through sharing best practices and strategies with one another. In Performance Objective 1.2, each of the activated stages of our leadership pipeline, this includes the first stage, which is aspiring administrators. As we've mentioned before, we have just graduated a class of 20 with our U of H cohort, and we're really excited that they're entering the second stage now, which is the bridge. In the bridge, they attend after school, 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock in their spring semester after graduation. And during that time, they receive training and acclimation towards different stages and different departments within the district that includes finance, coding,
It includes HR and the implications of hiring and documenting successful performance through T-tests and all of those different areas. This is a technical piece, the bridge, and the bridge helps prepare them more for their first year as an assistant principal. In the first year of the assistant principalship, they attend induction 1.0. We are in the spring semester of that. And then, of course, we have our collaborative cohort and our instructional walks that are being carried on at the secondary level. Each of these has a feedback loop afterwards. This is an example of what it looks like. They're always asked 2 questions at the end. What made this worth your time in your current role? And what is your information, or give us information on how we can improve or that would be more helpful. And these are just 2 samples for Induction 1.0. We collect this and file this in our communication folder, and it helps us to improve this particular experience. In 1.3, by May of 2019, a realization of highly effective professional communities. We've just now concluded with our secondary principals and are beginning with some of our elementary, the training with Dr. David LaRose in this particular area. And the response to him has been overwhelmingly positive. In these key trainings that they have, it also helps to address response to intervention, and mentoring meets coaching. And all of those will be completed by May of 2019. Data that helps to inform principal actions are the foundation piece of the professional learning communities. So each of those 5 bulleted areas are constantly fed to the principals so they can more actively monitor teacher and student performance within the building. 1.4, this particular performance objective is systems to improve areas of student programs where we evaluate and implement with quantifiable, summative evaluations. So we're currently working on this piece, but here are some examples. Gifted and talented, the area of dual credit offerings and early college planning. This will be complete in 2019, May of this year. One of the examples of activity in that is giving all of our principals copies of who has master's degree, who is eligible to teach dual credit, how many hours they might need, and then making sure that we use funding that's available to help them get those extra hours. So we have fewer online courses and more face-to-face courses for our dual credit offerings. CTE has targeted professional development. We just started our first year with that. Under the direction of Dr. Maxwell, federal programs is also evaluating the return on investment that we have for all district level programs, so we'll be continuing this at the elementary level. Dr. Bowen.
Thank you. Objective 1.5 focuses on the recruitment and selection of administrators. And in our work with Holsworth, we have redesigned and are currently launching our new administrator selection process. And the process came about from the work of a committee, and the process includes initial application, screening, interviewing to create an applicant pool, and then targeting those who are interviewed for specific campus vacancies. And we've actually begun our roadshow meetings where we're out providing information to those that are interested. And so far we've had about 50, I think, just shy of 50, who have indicated an interest in our application process. We are hoping to conduct our first round of the new interview and sometime after spring break. Goal 2 focuses on the efficacy and innovation and financial responsibility. All given departments, initiatives, and systems will be reviewed for direct impact on student learning and/or quality performance as evidenced by their sunsetting, innovating, or continuance. Objective 2.1 looks at the Human Resources Department, and the directors are beginning to review the work that we do. Is it the most efficient and the most effective, and are there ways that we can streamline it? And so there are 2 primary areas of focus at this stage. We are looking at the onboarding of new employees and how we're using Winocular, which is our applicant tracking and document management system, and we're beginning to assess our processes in there. Are they as efficient as they could be? Are there redundancies that we can eliminate, and can we streamline it? The second piece we're looking at is we're working with Tyler Munis, which is our finance payroll system, and we are reviewing, they are actually coming in to work with us, and we are going to review all of our personnel action processes to eliminate redundancy and again create streamlining and create a workflow efficiency so that we're using our staff more effectively.
Thank you. Performance Objective 2.0, Teaching and Learning Department. In this particular goal, our teaching goal, I am having difficulty tonight. Performance Objective Teaching and Learning and Special Program Departments review and evaluate the usage and efficacy of all of our materials, program systems, and structures in the given department. It's really important when we spend our taxpayers' dollars to ensure they're being spent for resources that produce results for our students. So in an update on this, all of our directors utilize a 30, 60, 90-day reporting tool, and they update the status of all of their evaluations that they're doing on different systems within their department. For example, we recently decided to retire a piece of software that costs $58,000 a year. It started off as a highly popular tool. It was accessed frequently, but we've noticed that it has not kept up with some of the changes at the state level. And so when we looked at usage reports this year, we found that it really wasn't generating the kind of data that helps move the needle any longer on achievement. So we'll be retiring that. And I know Mr. Moore is very happy about that because he wants that $58,000 for another purpose. So 2.3.
Performance Objective 2.3 for the financial and support departments of the district include mostly just becoming more efficient in our processing of transactions and services. 2.3 in particular involves an analysis of the processes involved in placing, receiving, and paying for orders by the district. Our goal is to reduce by 50% our processing time. A task force has been working diligently over the past few months to do a comprehensive analysis of current procedures. We did engage Tyler Technologies and a consultant from that firm to come in and look at and visit with all the staff to see what types of processes we have in place and how we're using our finance system. We have received the recommendations and the report back from our consultant. It contained 32 different recommendations, 6 of which were in the general category with that focus on data processing in general, and 16 were in the financial area specific to the financial processing. We do feel like we will increase our efficiency in order processing. We'll address some of the operational audit recommendations and efficiency in general through this process. Next week we have our next meeting of our task force, and then in that meeting we hope to define which actions we want to take, prioritize those, identify funding sources for them, and then also produce a schedule.
For support services, it's been referenced before, but we're very excited that the facilities assessment review has kicked off. In fact, we're in the stage of fine-tuning the questionnaire that's going to go out to all directors and principals and staff throughout the district. In fact, on February 27th is when we will first present it to our facilities in-house with the directors and people attending. And then the general staff in March will kick it off to a larger group. And then at the end of March is when they will begin making their way through the district to begin that assessment. And we have partnered with PBK to do this task. The goal is by March 2020 to have the facilities assessment review completed. It'll give us that documentation that we need. I think we saw Tuesday night, we're going to be building a lot of new schools, but with this facilities assessment review, it's going to really give us the information we need to make sure that our existing facilities, that we're keeping them up and taking care of them, and they look just as good as our new construction, and that's the goal.
Performance Objective 2.5 relates to the financial services area. We are to create a multi-year forecast of resources, expenditures, and reserve balances. We're well on our way for this process. Our result will be a 3-year projection of revenues, expenditures, and reserves. The budget process for 2019-20 is currently underway. We have our first estimates of state aid, taxes, and tax rate requirements for next year. We are including in our templates current year plus 3 years out estimates of everything. But we do have to keep in mind that the legislature is meeting currently, and there could be a significant impact, and we will have to continue modeling and adjusting as necessary.
Alrighty, goal 3 is a safe and responsible school environment. Specifically, all students and staff will continue to learn and work in a safe and responsive environment to our student needs. If you look at performance objective 3.1 by June 1st, 2019, all of our safety and security procedures will be thoroughly reviewed, and a minimum of 3 strategies will be deployed. We've had several safety and security procedures underway so far this year. The board is certainly aware of the front entry vestibule or electrified locks. Those have been installed on every single campus. In terms of the classroom intruder latch bolt sets, those are in every single classroom with the exception of 2 campuses, those being Austin and Travis, but they have shipped, and we are tracking those, and they should be this week, and we expect those to be installed this coming Monday. Also, the Raptor Visitor Registry System was spoken about in the Technology Committee today, but that software has been updated and all of our campuses have been trained. That includes a silent alarm or a panic button feature that has been activated for our front desk reception areas. And all of our campuses this year have implemented the Standard Response Protocol, or the SRP, and the board has been receiving updates regularly anytime a campus actually deploys an action. And so each month, campuses also have a drill report to our school safety coordinator, Dallas Warren, and he tracks that and gets an after-action report of how those drills went, how they can make improvements, and they're working very well together. Performance objective 3.2 continues with the Whole Child Safety and Wellness Program. Dr. Roberts was here on Tuesday with a little bit of update on this program, but some interesting things this year were the launch of the Lamar CISD Student Services app, which is focused on mental and health and wellness. And also they've been working on the pillars of character, but again, she spoke a little bit about some of this process earlier this week. So with that, that concludes the District Improvement Plan quarterly update. If the board has any questions about any of the 3 goals, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. When Mr. Moore was doing his presentation of our results, one of the things that it looked like we were lacking were dual credit. Was that in that area? And I saw that we are trying, or we have a plan or something to get more dual credit teachers that can actually teach. Do we have something actually in plan, how we're going to move forward with that, or is it a long-term plan for us? Incentives for our teachers to get those additional 18 hours in those?
Yes.
Here
yeah. Actually, we had 3 different prongs to the initiatives on dual credit. Prior to this year, our major affiliation was with WCJC, and for various reasons, English and U.S. history were the primary courses that they were able to provide us. They did not have the online capacity or depth of and breadth of faculty that were able to come to our districts to support the instruction. And so we did a analysis of all of the community colleges in this area, and it was about a year-long process. So our first prong was to affiliate with a college system that would be able to offer more resources to our district. We selected of those Lone Star College for several reasons. Their tuition for a typical course, which would cost from $1,500 to $4,000, was available at $78 for our students, which was well below at that point in time any other community college. They also had the largest course selection that they could offer, and they also had the ability to provide online instruction. Currently, our teachers are working in conjunction with them to develop the curricula for more online courses. So that is one of our prongs, was first to find an affiliation that would help us move forward. The second prong was to develop more teachers who could provide face-to-face instruction. And to that end, we are offering grant opportunities with an MOU with a teacher or an agreement with a teacher that after funding their master's degree or their 18 hours that they would remain in the district for the next 4 years to instruct for our program. And then the third prong to it is the development of the early college program, which we were able to do some analysis on. It won't begin for this year's 8th graders and freshmen until their junior year, because that's when the dual credit courses really begin to rev up. But there are some things that we would like to put in place to prepare them for that eventually. So we're looking at this 9th grade class, and we do have a database that can draw from those who have the capacity to meet TSIA in order to start with one course in their sophomore year and then follow with their junior and senior year. So we're developing that database to create early college opportunities. We did an analysis on the cost of those first 2 years of college core credit, and the analysis of that tells us for about $3,000 total from the parents, and of course we have a scholarship available for those who are not able to afford it. They could complete their first 2 years of college at that point, and the cost of those first 2 years is anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 if they wait until their graduation before they begin college hours. At this point in time, Dr. Maxwell and I actually just had a conversation about doing some analysis and helping our principals to understand where we want to position that freshman class so that they're able to take advantage of that. That's one of the reasons we provided the master degree teachers that already exist, so they can become, in the next 2 years, ensure that those people are in place and we're able to provide the full-blown program in 2 years from now.
Well, Dr. Maxwell's here tonight, and he's wearing some really snazzy socks. I just wanted to point that out.
He'll be glad to
I
address
still want to
any
know what
questions.
course he took.
Yes, they
Where
are.
can we?
Before you sit down, you said the program of getting teachers to, you would pay for them to go back and get their 18 hours. Has that already been put in place?
Actually, we did it last year. We began it.
And how many teachers took that up?
Last year we had limited funds. We were able to, we're working actually on the budget, and we're going to give preference this year. We have teachers who could go this summer to get their 18 hours. One of the difficult challenges is you could have a master's in English or a master's in a content area, but there's a designation. Lone Star has an articulation agreement that we just shared with the counselors that they can help promote this by showing everything that every state college in Texas will accept Lone Star credit in. The issue is to teach, because essentially you're teaching for the university system, because they're accepting these. They have to have certain things or certain courses in their master's.
There's criteria and limitations that keep
Exactly.
from that many teachers being able to be part of the program. I understand.
So you can have a master's in English, but you must have 18 hours in composition within that master's. And so we have English teachers that are going back to get just the 18 hours in composition, so they're able to teach.
I would simply like to compliment the staff on the type of work you're doing here. This is huge. When you start digging down in there, the amount of work that goes into this, we really appreciate that. And I really like that 3-year financial model, because you regularly ask the board to approve dollars, and we're looking down the road about a year, and it's really nice to know, all right, what happens 3 years from now when we make this decision. So I really appreciate that model. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll have the special education update.
All
right, President Steenberg and members of the board. I'm here tonight to present to you just an update on where we stand with the special education program in LCISD. I want to start with just some history, some reminders. In 2004, TEA tied the percentage of students identified in special education to the state accountability system. And in that process, they were penalizing districts who had more than 8.5% of their students served by special education. The national average for special education is around 13%. And in doing this, their decision was financially motivated. So the goal was to bring the numbers down in special education to make it a little bit cheaper to serve those students. In 2016, the Houston Chronicle published an article bringing to light or suggesting that school districts were trying to keep students out of special education in order to keep them below the cap. That article prompted a federal investigation of special education programming in Texas. And the Office of Special Education at the federal level found that the state violated IDEA, child find, and FAPE provisions. And that required TEA to implement a corrective action plan. And so all of this happened, the final plans over the last school year. The corrective action plan was put into place here in the fall. And in doing that, public schools, corrective action number 1 required by the federal government, public schools must engage in child find and provide FAPE for students. Corrective action 2, public schools will evaluate students who were previously denied testing and reassess the needs of students who got services late. Public schools and educators will not delay referrals for evaluation, and parents will get clear information about the differences among laws and programs. And TEA will effectively monitor public schools to protect struggling learners suspected of having a disability and in need of special education. So these were corrective actions that TEA must put forward in order to meet that federal requirement. As they're doing this, we have to be responsive to that. And so TEA, it's a shifting and a monitoring as we go along. Implications of what we've seen so far from the corrective action plan. In November, the State Board of Education adopted a new dyslexia handbook, and within that, it outlined new screening and program requirements for dyslexia. So we started school in August, and in November we had to shift our processes for screening and providing services to students with dyslexia. TEA also initiated a strategic plan review requiring campus teams to review the progress of all students currently being served in RTI, Section 504, dyslexia, and in any other programs that were or with students who can be considered at risk due to failing grades, attendance, or behavior to determine if a special education referral was needed if they had been missed. That information was released from the state. The process that districts were supposed to go through was released in October. A training plan took place with our campus principals in late October and early November. Campus teams began the review, and that review was required by the state to be completed in January. So from October to January, we went through that strategic plan review. We have seen an increase in the number of students being both referred by parents and campuses, and an increase in the number of students who are qualifying for special education. So you can see back in 2014-15, we were right around 2,400, 2,450. And at this point, mid-year, in 2018-19, as of this week, we currently have 3,657 students who have qualified for special education. So mid-year, this last bar is mid-year, whereas all of the previous bars are at the end of those school years. So you can see we are already well past the 2016-17 numbers at this midpoint in the year. The second piece of information that the board, that I'd like to share with the board is just a quick reminder on the referral and assessment process, both for current LCISD students and for students who are transferring into LCISD. If a student is currently an LCISD student, the referral process starts with a problem-solving team on campus. They can initiate a referral for a student who's not making progress or not responding to interventions that are taking place on campus. Once they have parental consent, the diagnostician, LSSP, speech pathologist, depending on the testing, has 45 school days to complete that evaluation. And then an ARD meeting, once that evaluation is complete, an ARD meeting is scheduled within 30 calendar days to review the evaluation results. If a student is transferring into LCISD and they are already being served by special education in a school district within Texas, then we will do our best in LCISD to match those services beginning day one. And once we've matched the services, those services will start and that ARD will be held within those first 30 school days that the student is on campus. If a student is coming from another state outside of Texas, often the records that are coming with them do not match the requirements within the state of Texas. So that student, the student and parent, the initial referral timeline start just as they would if the student was being referred within the district. And once that consent is happening, then the testing can begin. Okay, unless unless the school and parent agree to something different. Okay, and a transfer ARD will always include a consent for testing. The last little piece I have for you is just some updates on the DIP items that are specific to special education. So first of all, the activity related to RTI. So we had an activity that said that we would create an updated response to intervention manual to serve as the main resources for campus teachers and administrators. That RTI manual is currently in draft form. Over the next month, we're working with the Secondary Principal Advisory Group and the Elementary Collaborative Cohort Principals to finalize the changes. We're aligning our processes and procedures to the new TEA guidelines and guidance that is coming out, and making sure we're in line with best practices at the state and national level with RTI. Activity 2 was to implement new procedures to track student progress in RTI or response to intervention. Those new procedures using SuccessEd, the SuccessEd software program, were finalized by the special education team in November. A series of training opportunities were provided for campus staff, campus administrative staff in November and December. And then those early adopter campuses that were ready to move forward started in January. All campuses will come on board beginning in the 19-20 school year. And the last activity related to special education in this year's DIP was the evaluation of our homebound instructional program. That evaluation is complete. Processes for homebound have been updated to ensure that we're receiving documentation directly from the doctor or doctors serving a child. This has resulted in a 35% decrease in the number of students receiving intermittent homebound services because we've been able to provide doctors with information about least restrictive environments. And so when we're talking about reducing the number of homebound students, this is students with conditions such as migraines, allergies, arthritis, asthma, and anxiety. We want to get them in school as much as we can so that they're around their peers and receiving the best instruction possible. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
45 days for a new referral, that's the equivalent of 9 weeks. Why does it take so long to get a child, test them, and provide some feedback?
Our goal is obviously to get those done quicker and faster, so that 45 days is a legal requirement and we can't be any longer than that. But as soon as possible with the testing, with our LSSPs and diagnosticians, they get that process started. And ideally it happens faster than that. But when we're looking at the number of students being referred and the number of staff that we have, it's as fast as they can get served.
Well, we recently had a speaker here that had, and I'm sure you remember, had just some suggestions about how we could make life easier on kids. Is there a process, or do you have a process in place for your special ed teachers or the diags or the LSSPs on the campus to speed up certain ones?
Yes, ma'am. So depending on the severity of the case and the situation, we work with the principal and with Miss Lane or Dr. Mossage to add them to a high priority list. And then those students move to the top of the list as far as testing and assessment goes. It just depends on the situation, and we work up through the system as quickly as we can for those high need cases.
So when you say that we're having such an increase, as we saw obviously, are we, basically back to our wellness model? Is the problem staffing in this situation? Are we staffed appropriately?
There are many components. So as the state shifts their designations for what qualifies a student for special education, as we review records of students who did not qualify in the past, and are still struggling. That's part of the concern. And then we look at staffing. So we look at the number of LSSPs we have, the number of diagnosticians we have, the number of teachers we have to serve these students. It's all part of that conversation, and as we plan for next year, and our numbers continue to increase, we're adding staff on a regular basis.
So I'm assuming that as our increase in staff for special education is equal to the increase in the students that we have?
Yes, yeah. So when they go through the IEP process and that ARD happens, they designate their services, and we have to be able to meet those services. So then if we need an additional staff, we go back to the drawing board. It just depends on their master schedule for the campus, who's available to serve that child, and we always want to make sure we meet those legal requirements for minutes and service plan. So we're always looking at staffing needs based on needs of our students.
Well, because earlier you made the comment 45 days because of the amount of staff that we have. So
ideally, we would have more LSSPs and diagnosticians. There's a shortage across the state. So it's a matter of finding those highly qualified people, and we address those needs as they come out, but we're always looking for LSSPs, diagnosticians, and highly qualified testing staff.
Thank you.
And I saw one of the components from the state was to go back and look to see if students had been passed over and needed to be serviced. Did we have some of those issues arise in our district?
Yes, ma'am. So when we look at our plan, our folder review, that was the big component of that. This last little bit here, going back and looking at students who are being served by RTI, being served by 504, dyslexia, just struggling students, at-risk students. As those folders start to flow in, then those referrals can happen. So,
but did we find those that had been passed over and that
yes, ma'am.
They are now being
part of that?
That's probably part of the big
yes,
jump.
Yes,
okay, thank you.
Most of this addresses making sure we get the students that are eligible into the program. When we reviewed the campus improvement plans, almost universally there was a performance issue as well. Once you get these children in there, they're not performing to the level that we expect and would like to see them.
Yes,
did your activity 2, was that addressing that, making sure that performance level comes up for those children?
Yes, sir. So the RTI process, both this activity 1 and activity 2, with tracking interventions, is aligned to the question that you're asking. So
right.
Making sure that students are responding to the instruction they're being provided, and that we're changing the plan if they're not making progress.
Okay, great.
And so training principals, training teachers, realigning processes to ensure that we're watching that progress.
Outstanding.
Yes.
Getting more kids in doesn't mean we're doing
exactly.
everything.
If we're not meeting their needs, then
We're
we're
not
not
meeting
serving
their
them
needs.
appropriately.
All right, thank you for that
Exactly.
comment. Any other questions?
No, Melissa asked mine.
Pardon me?
Melissa asked my question.
Melissa, all right. You get extra points tonight, too. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a couple other informational items I'd like to revisit. Would you ask Lieutenant Segura to come in, please?
Good evening.
Good evening. The other night we saw our first presentation on the same type of report that Rosenberg gets, and these are the 37 chargeable classified crimes. Ms. Kaminsky asked something about here's all this other stuff going on in the schools, and we sort of left that dangling. I know these SROs do a whole lot more on a daily basis than investigate with all these. Also have 37 incidents. So would you mind just running through what
Sure.
the kinds of things that our SROs address
If
on
you
a
wouldn't
regular
mind,
basis?
I actually had something prepared because it was the first time that I had actually approached you and speak to you about it, but I didn't bring it up the other night, so I'm going to kind of read through it.
Well, I'll be your lead man.
Thank you, I
I'll play
appreciate
your
it.
straight man here. Thank
Currently, the SRO division consists of 13 police officers. We have 2 sergeants and 1 lieutenant. We're in the process right now of filling the final 2 positions that you approved last year, which are for our elementaries, our rovers. And it's very tedious when we hire officers for the schools because we want to have the right fit, those that get along with kids, those that have experience, and those who can create positive relations with administrators because you're dealing with so many people on a daily basis. We've been providing police services for LCISD since 1998, and it has grown tremendously, LCISD itself, but also our division. The school resource officers patrol a total of 51 sites within LCISD, which covers 385 square miles. The current The employed SROs are highly trained and qualified to meet the needs of all law enforcement efforts of prevention, intervention, and enforcement, with a focus on creating the safest learning environment possible for students, school administrators, staff, and school community. These officers provide expertise in a gambit of specialized fields such as investigations, traffic enforcement, narcotics, crimes against children, homicide investigation, SWAT, training coordination, and juvenile crime. And by saying that, the officers that we have right now usually have 10 plus years of experience. We have a number with 20 years of experience, and there are 3 of us who have close to 30 now years of experience. And that's the type of officers we look for, some that have come from investigations, some that have come from narcotics divisions. One of my applicants right now that is going through the background is actually a fire marshal, and he would be extremely helpful in the school resource division if he makes it through the background, which it looks very positive right now. All school resource officers are trained at least once annually in alert training, but most go through 2 or 3 times, and the current SWAT members that I have go through just about every other week through alert training. And the alert training is the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training that's for critical school incidents that occur, such as school shootings or lockdowns. We're all trained to get there and provide services quickly and rapidly. We also assist with traffic issues in and around campus. We are Rosenberg police officers, but we do studies and traffic surveys at all the campuses and elementaries that are out in Fort Bend County. We send officers out there and they monitor the traffic. They speak with some of the parents in that area, and they speak with the school officials and find out what can be done to make traffic flow better and easier. We report back to Mike Rockwood with the findings that we have, and we come with a solution to make it better. We do career days and field days. My officers are always available. They work extremely long hours. Our hours are from 7:15 a.m. until 4 p.m., but you will see my officers in service usually 10 minutes before 7, and they're never off at 4 o'clock. The investigation of complex crimes, CPS cases, and CAC, Child Advocacy Center cases, those are all handled by SROs. The school resource officers are self-reliant. We start cases from the very beginning. We investigate our own cases, and then we file them with the appropriate court of the district attorney's office, which other agencies will use our detective division, ID divisions for all that. My guys have the experience to do those cases from start to finish, and that's why we're able to handle these cases rapidly, expediently, and professionally, and have things done immediately for the district. We cover all the sporting events for security. We also do security for extracurricular events such as dances, auto shows, and field days that they have. We escort the athletics out of town for their playoff games. Just in case there's accidents or something, they have a radio where we can be in contact with the local police department to get there quickly. And we're on call 24/7. We get called out all hours of the night, and we still make it to work the next day and have to do our jobs. One thing that we did start about 3.5 to 4 years ago is we are now the money couriers for all the LCISD campuses for cafeterias and coaches and front offices. It works out well. I mean, we're in marked patrol vehicles. It's not sending the school secretary to the bank with a large amount of money on her own, which is really good. So we took that over. I have officers who interact with all the students in the criminal justice class, the Skills USA competitions that they have. My officers are the ones that train them how to do building searches, traffic stops, felony takedowns, and they do that on their own time, because they like interacting with these kids. And that's Officer Liao and Officer Weisheimer from Lamar High School and Foster High School. They do a really good job. Aside from the policing services, SROs act as role models and mentors to the students by having one-on-one conversations with them. Creating these positive relations with students gives them the trust to confide in the SRO, and in turn allows for the sharing of information that pertains to school safety and security in a quicker manner. So we all do that. You can walk through the halls and you'll see the students run up to our SROs, and they give us information that we can use, and it makes the campuses safer just by the information that they give us. Hey, this is happening in this area, so now we're going to concentrate on this area. We try to stay moving around. We don't want to be in the same area all the time, because then they kind of figure out, hey, he's going to be over here, we can do this over here. So it's working out really well. I'm looking forward to getting these other 2 guys hired, hopefully within the next 3 weeks, and it's going to help us out extremely well with the elementaries.
How about the rovers? How's that working out?
They're working out well. One problem that we've had is one of my officers broke her foot, so the 2 rovers that we had, one of them is covering her campus until she gets back, which looks like it's going to be the week before spring break. One officer that we had just currently resigned, so we have the other rover covering Lehman Junior High for her until I get these other 2 hired. But we're still able to go around. Sergeant Clark and Sergeant Johnson and myself visit elementaries, and we go do walkthroughs, and it really surprises them. Can I help you? We're just here to hang out, and I think they enjoy that. They like to see us at their campuses, so it's working out well, though. Once we get fully staffed, like I said, hopefully in the next 3 weeks, it's going to be great. And but they have been going to the school zones in the mornings and afternoons and walking the campuses, so it's working out. It's doing really good.
And a lot of those crime reports actually come from students. We've got a lot of our students saying, giving you the information to address those before they become a big problem,
Exactly.
too, which is a really good thing. When you got that many students, you got that many eyes, they can identify it before the rest of us can. So,
and that's how it happens.
And it's been very positive from our students.
Yes, sir.
Is this the first year that you've had roving to the different elementary schools,
Yes,
right?
yes, it is.
So that's why they're so surprised to you.
Yeah, it's really good.
So that is being meeting positively good.
How are they divided?
We divided them by tracks. We have our rovers with one for the red and one for the blue. Currently, we're doing blue and gold. We haven't included purple since it's fairly new, but he does blue, gold, and purple. And then we have one of the rovers covering red and maroon, which is north side, south side. And the 2 sergeants also split them up and go visit the elementary schools.
So back to the question about with the wellness model and also special education, with the distance between some of the schools, especially when you're dividing one officer between 3 different tracks. What does that look like for that officer? How many schools does he actually get to visit in one day?
In the situation that we're in right now, we still utilize the junior high officers too to hit the elementaries also, because they're in close proximity, and that's something that when our dispatch receives a call, they are able to see who is at what campus and who's closer to a certain campus, so they'll dispatch that officer first. It may be at Frost Elementary, while my Briscoe officer is closer than a red track. So he's headed out that way along with the rover coming the opposite direction. It's usually 1 or 2 officers that respond to all calls. So.
Well, I appreciate it. We hit this kind of lightly the other night, and I hope to get a little more insight to
Yes, sir.
the board and the group, exactly what y'all are up to every day. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for the way y'all go back to business.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
I'd like to visit one other the information items, the whole child safety and wellness model. The other night I alluded to the fact that we'd really like to have, since we're gathering data on how much actual counseling our counselors are doing, I'd really like to have a report next month on the change since October when we initiated this, and then what's our target? Give me a target date. I don't know whether it's May or beginning of next fall. The target, what kind of target do we have on improvement? So
She's up and down.
Yes. I've already spoken with Dr. Maxwell about that,
Okay.
and our target is April for a comprehensive report.
Fantastic.
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Any other comments, information items, questions from the board? We have no items for closed session. Any other future agenda items we need to talk about? I see we have most of our candidates for the board here, and I did mention to them, and we've talked about this before, about having an informal information session. You take a couple board members and lead you through what happens at a board meeting. Now that you've seen it, you have some better idea, but we'd like to show you 6 months of board books, what that looks like.
And find a place in your home to keep it.
Yeah, find an extra filing cabinet. When you get on the board, some of the things are going to happen to you almost immediately, how you will be inundated. So at a later date, I'll be contacting all the candidates, and we'll have a couple board members sit down with you and just chat for a couple hours about what you're about to step into as a future event. If there are no other questions or comment, we call this meeting adjourned at 8:54. Thank you.